Hey everyone, it's Aging Grateful. I'm Bobby.
I'm Cedric.
And this video is going to be about getting your residency in Mexico.
Yeah, about the do's and don'ts, and some of our opinions of the do's and don'ts, and some of the things that maybe can help you save time and headache.
I mean, it's an exciting step to be able to pursue residency in another country, but believe us, the process sometimes can be confusing if you don't know what you're doing, right?
That's right.
All right. Do's and don'ts of residency, right? There's many different ones, so we're just going to share some things that we are thinking about, right?
Yeah, and make sure you stick around to the end because we're going to share our experience, a little crazy story what happened with us. Yeah. So we'll jump right into it. The do's, we'll start with the do's. Then there's no particular order. The first one is to make sure that you meet the financial requirements.
Yes. Mexico has income and savings requirements, investments requirements as well for temporary and permanent residency. So, one thing is that these numbers change and can change yearly, and also it can change by consulate,
right?
Wherever you're starting your process from, right? So it could change. So always check with the consulate in regards to that.
And check the consulate's website because there's no sense of making appointments and talking to attorneys and facilitators if you don't even meet the requirements.
Absolutely.
So that would be the first thing I would suggest. Go to the consulate website, look at the requirements, make sure you meet them, and then go from there.
And another tip about this is that when they're talking about income, like if you're going to be, as an example, using that as part of your residency process, you need to make sure that it's a steady income. They're not going to be looking for like, you was doing 3 months here, took off 6 months and did another 3. No, you'll need a steady income or a certain amount of savings in the bank.
Yeah. Yeah. And our next do is make sure you know which visa that you're applying for or which residency you're applying for.
Mm-hmm. Know which one. Do know which one you're applying for. There's temporary and then there's permanent, right? Yeah. Those are the things. Those are the two in Mexico. Yeah. And also keep in mind that although you know which one you're applying for, just make sure, keep in mind you're reading everything, because one of the things is that we could have.
Yeah.
We didn't do our research. Well, we didn't know at the time. We were just listening to other people's videos, which is why we're sharing this now with you. That we could have probably gone, not saying that we would have been approved for it, but we probably could have just gone straight to permanent residency at the time, but we got approved for temporary.
Yeah.
So just do know which one you're going to be applying.
Yeah, because they do have different requirements.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
The next do is start this process in your home country.
So yes, a lot of people think fly to Mexico and get my temporary residency. The process actually starts where you are. Mm-hmm. If you are thinking about getting residency in Mexico, you need to reach out to the Mexican consulate where you are.
Yeah.
So whatever country you're in, that you start that process there. As an example too, with that, you look up Mexican consulate on the website and then type in your state or your city, mm-hmm. and see if there's a Mexican consulate near you.
Yeah, and then you can call them and make an appointment, or however they say do the appointment. Some say email, some say call. They're all different, so you definitely got to make sure you figure out what that is.
And book your appointment early, because some places we have heard that the wait times can be pretty long for an appointment, to get an appointment. There are different ways in which you would need to obtain the appointment. I mean, some places will have you email them. Some places actually have a form on their website. So just if this is something that you're looking to do, head on over there quickly and find out what the process is and how long that might take you to get an appointment.
Yeah. And our next due is bring all your required documents. And we say generally this is what the consulates require, and we're going to use that term generally lightly, and we'll get into that when we go to the don'ts.
Yes,
but generally, you need a valid passport. You need bank statements, proof of income. You need the residency application.
Passport size photos, guys. Don't bring the little bitty or big 8.5. You need the passport size photos.
Yeah, you can only get those at Walgreens and CVS and all that. And then proof of address, if it's required. And then you make copies for, you and how many other people that you're
going to be doing this residency with. Like if you're a family, everybody in the family has to have a copy of those documents. If it's a husband and wife and kids, the husband has to have a copy, the wife has to have a copy, and the kids, each individual kid has to have, or child has to have a copy. It can't be just one copy for everybody. I don't care if it's duplicates. You just don't know if there's an error or something that needs to be corrected on a document, right? And it's easy to be like, oh my gosh, I messed up on this document, that you can pull out an extra that you have.
The other next due is learn some basic Spanish.
Habla español.
Yeah, I mean, at least the greetings and different things. I mean, just to show that you're interested
so
and move to the country.
Because yes, okay. So having being at the consulate in the country that you're in, or the state or city that you're in, the people there may speak English, but there may be also some that may not necessarily speak
It's a
English.
Mexican consulate,
So Spanish is essential if you can try and work around. I mean, you can try your Google Translate and things like that, but just be aware that you may encounter a time where you may need to learn at least, a little bit.
Yeah, or you could do a little research and stuff that's related to the process and the documents, so that you know what they're talking about.
Correct.
So yeah. And then the next due is expect to spend money.
Oh, yes. And when we say this, we're meaning that there is a cost at the consulate to pay. This is not a free process. Let me just say this. This is not something you go in and you hand them your documents and they give you a residency approval. No, there's a fee associated with the application process. There will also be a fee when you finish the second half of the process, because the first half would be starting that process in your home country, but then you have to finish the process in Mexico. So, and then there's a fee to do that. There may be additional fees if you so choose to do facilitators and things like that. So just know that this process is not a free process, and I just want to make it very clear that there is some funds. Now, it may not be like astronomical,
right?
But there's fees. Look, we just trying to break it down to the bare bones minimum.
Yeah. And there's other costs, like if you're trying to do a work visa and things like that. There's additional costs to the process. So
also the airline tickets to get from your country to Mexico to finish the process. So there's money involved. There's a price involved to obtain and earn this residency. Right? Okay. There's one other thing. Do be patient and flexible in this process, guys, because how do I say it? Okay. Maybe not everything works the way you think it should work, or work the way you're used to it working in your country, right? Processes are totally different depending upon where you are. So paperwork can take time. Rules sometimes change on the fly. Take a deep breath and just relax and go with the flow, because things are going to happen, right? And there's processes and procedures, and like I said, it's just a matter of just knowing that you're going to get that residency at some point, and this is what you really wanted to do, and you just have to, understand that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All right.
Now we'll get into the don'ts. One of the first don't is don't assume that don't assume that you have to go to the consulate in your state. Because there's consulates all across the United States, and they all have different requirements. Some are cheaper than the other requirements as far as the amounts. Some wait times vary. Some you may be able to get in right away. Some you may not be able to. So just keep that in mind, as you don't have to be stuck in the city that you're in.
Right.
You can go to another consulate.
Like some people shop around, if I could say that.
Yeah.
Like you go and you look at, as an example, if you're in Texas and you look at the consulate website and they are saying that it's this amount of money for the financial solvency requirements, and it may take 2 months to get your appointment. If you are willing to travel, let's just say, for instance, you look up Phoenix consulate, and Phoenix's consulate may say it's a little bit less money for the financial solvency, and you could get an appointment like next week. This is an example. I'm not using any real timelines, but if you are willing to travel to another state or city, or what have you, or drive, you may be able to get your beginning process done quicker. So
and that had kind of tied into the not assuming. One of the don'ts was not assuming that every consulate has the same requirements.
Right, because they don't.
They don't.
They don't. It's not uniform. Don't ask us in the comments. Please don't ask us why that is. We don't know. It's just something that we found is the case, and we dealt accordingly with that. So
So if you're looking at, for your example, like Phoenix, if you're looking up Phoenix and you get all the documents of Phoenix, and the appointment is going to take you 3 months, you're like, I'll just go to Houston and do it. And you go to Houston, take all your paperwork with you. They may have totally different things they're looking for. The next don't is don't listen to YouTubers telling you exactly what you need to do.
Don't listen to us. No. No, we're saying this because look, we as a YouTube family, we do our best to give you good information, right? We try our hardest to give you, or share with you our lives, share with you what information we've stumbled on. But think about it. If you're looking at a YouTuber and the video was 3 years ago.
Yeah. Or if it was last month. And that's why we're giving general, if we're not giving exact figures and all that stuff, because this is general information.
Right.
And if you go off of what somebody's saying, it can be totally different. Like, for example, like we were saying earlier, we could have got our permanent residency. Well, all the YouTube videos we're watching, nobody was even mentioning anything about permanent residency. We didn't even think about that even being an option.
We even saw a video where they were talking about permanent residency for people who were retired.
Yeah.
And so, and not to say that that information was not true, because it can actually be true. It's just the information was not timely for us, or necessarily accurate. So you do your research. You listen to us, provide this information. Again, our information is generic because of the fact that it's something we're just asking you to, spurring you or encouraging you or inspiring you to do the research, and where to go to get that information, right? So it applies specifically to you.
And our next don't is, after you do get your pre-approval on the first part in your home country, do not come into Mexico as a tourist, because that will potentially void your process and you have to start all over again.
So we'll give you an example. Again, example does not mean that this is what's going to happen to you or your experience. We were living in Puerto Vallarta at the time when we were getting our residency. And what they did for us is in our passport, they give you the first part of the approval process of your residency, right? And they put it actually in your passport. They put it, laminated it with tape and stuff in our passport picture and everything, so they can see that we starting the process of the residency. That page, when we got off the plane, we showed that specific page of our passport, showing that we're in the first stages of the residency, so that they don't stamp us as tourists, right? It needed to be shown that we are in this process, so we're no longer needing to be considered tourists. We want the residency, and we've completed that first part on our end. And so then that means that in the system, it didn't invalidate our process. So you don't want to get off the plane and just walk in and show your passport. You want to show that page in the passport so that they don't invalidate what you just did in the States in order to get here.
And every airport is different. Like in Puerto Vallarta, there was a line for residents and things like that. And Querétaro and León and some of these other airports, it's just everybody goes through the same line. So that's even more so you have to make sure that you show them that you're going through that process.
Yeah, so you just do your due diligence to make sure that the people that you are seeing when you get ready to go through into Mexico get to really see that document that you are starting the process, so they don't mark you as just a tourist.
Yep, and that goes for even after you get your residency, you still got to go through the same thing.
Yes.
So that's something you just have to get used to with traveling back and forth.
Show that residency card
First. So the other next don't forget about the canje process.
which is the exchange
process. So that's when, once you get your pre-approval, once you get to Mexico, you have 30 days to complete the second part of the process.
Yes.
So kind of a tip on that is, if you're working with a facilitator or not, you want to make sure that you get your appointment before you book your trip, because let's just say you got your pre-approval and you come to Mexico the following week, and then you get to Mexico and they say, well, we don't have any appointments for 2 months or 3 months.
This is
Now you're stuck.
This is my recommendation, because you can't make an appointment at immigration. You can't make an appointment in immigration if you're in the States. There's not like a number you can call or anything like that. So you do have to be here unless you hire a facilitator.
Yeah, there you go.
So the timelines, guys, hear me out. The timeline is fine. If you get your first part in and then you book a trip to Mexico, head straight to like the next day to the INM office to make your appointment if you're going to do this on your own. The 30 days is enough time, and if something happens where they say they can't do it within that 30-day timeline, they will make concessions for you because you have attempted to do it within the timeline that they are asking you to do it. I've not heard of it being longer than that, being fair. So if you're going to do it on your own, just come next day, make the appointment, and then show up when that appointment time is.
And if you're going to do it on your own, you definitely better have your Spanish game on, because something like that, you definitely got to know what you're doing, because you're in Mexico, you're in their country, so they're not going to be catering to trying to figure out what you're trying to translate and all that stuff.
Now, so I will say this is probably where YouTube comes into play, us as YouTubers, because you can look up residency for Mexico and see different maybe places, like if you're going to go to Puerto Vallarta to do your residency, or San Miguel or Querétaro or wherever it is, you can look up residency, see someone who has recently gotten a residency, to see how their process was, because they maybe shared their experience for that timeline, so you can kind of gauge. Not that it's going to happen to you exactly that way, but kind of gauge. But if you are hiring a facilitator to do your process, they will go ahead and schedule an appointment for you based upon your timeline of when you are to arrive in Mexico. But once your feet are on the ground, you have 30 days to actually finish that process. That's what we're basically trying to say.
Yeah. And along those lines is, try not to book a short turnaround trip during that process. Give yourself some time, because there may be something going on with the machines. Like this kind of leads into our story, right? When we came to get our residency, we had a facilitator, we had the appointment, everything was perfect. And then when we got ready we did all the things we were supposed to do. We did our fingerprints and everything on this side.
And they told us, because everything was approved, everything was done, somewhat. But then they told us to come back the next day to get our residency cards.
Yeah, they normally give it to you the same day in most places.
And it depends on how backed up they are. This is why we're saying be flexible, okay? Because it just depends on how backed up they are. It depends on what they are actually doing and processing. Obviously, we had come at somewhat of a busy time. You'll be waiting sometimes outside until they call you in. But we were told to come back the next day just to pick up our residency cards.
So the next day we go back, and the printer was broken, so they couldn't print cards, and they had no idea of when the printer would be fixed.
Yep. And
that printer was broken at least a month. I think it took you a month to get yours. So that kind of goes back to, if you have to be back in the U.S., because during that time you can't leave. During that process.
And the facilitator was telling us, okay, the machine is broken. They were trying to get people, I guess they were trying to get someone to come out to fix it from another state, to come and fix this special printer that prints the residency cards. And they were basically stating that if you leave, then you got to start the whole process all over again. And so I'm like, absolutely not. We are here now. And thank God we were able, we had, which is another story, we had already rented a place and everything before we started the process of residency. So thank God we had a place that we were paying for monthly. And our positions, we were able to do what we needed to do and be in Mexico for that time period. But I know that some people may not have been able to do that, but we always say, please try to be flexible, because if something like that is to happen, you might be out of luck and have to start the process over again.
Yeah, if you're on a tight schedule and anything happens, you would more likely have to start the process over again.
And they were saying the only way that you would have to leave or could leave would have been if it was some type of medical emergency. So.
And then that would even cost money, because now you gotta have the facilitator to go do the paperwork and all that. And so, then it may not even be approved.
Yeah, and it may not be approved. So it's just, and you paid that money, and so that was our story. That's what happened. It took a couple of months for us to get all of our cards. Let's just say it took us a few months, a couple of months to get all of our cards. But we were flexible. It wasn't cool. We weren't excited about the wait in the process, but
and we didn't have the stress of having to be back in the U.S. to do it. So.
However, again, we're just sharing that this could be an option or something that happens. And you need to know to pivot, or how to pivot in the event that something like that, or plan in the event something like that happens to you. Not saying that we wish that on you or that it would happen. We just said, if it does, what would you do?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what do you think?
Those are our do's and don'ts.
Those are our do's and don'ts. Well, if you found this video helpful, or you like this video, or think someone else would enjoy this video, what we would like for you to do is
Like, comment, and subscribe.
And share this information. And then hit the notification bell to be alerted to our next video.
Yeah.
Much love. Peace, guys.
Deuces.